Okay, what is good, guys? Give me a second. I am almost ready. Let me make sure you guys can hear me. Let me make sure you guys. Okay, and let's get started. For today's video, well, live stream, we got a selection here just randomly, no particular order. So let me do that. And well, for the first video, we have TDLR News Global and the Turkey, Pakistan, Saudi Arabia Defense Pact explained.
Last Friday, the leaders of Turkey, Saudi Arabia, and Pakistan signed a landmark defense pact called the Mecca Joint Defense Agreement. Dubbed by some as an Islamic NATO, the trilateral agreement stipulates that any armed attack against any one of the three states should be regarded as an attack against them all, echoing NATO's Article 5 Mutual Defense Clause. With the US-Iran war still unresolved, renewed escalation in Yemen and the Red Sea, and persistent tension between Israel and its neighbours, the Mecca Joint Defense Agreement is set against the backdrop of a turbulent Middle East. So in this video, we're going to explain the new Mutual Defense Pact, including what has inspired it, and what its potential consequences might be. We believe that quietly changing the facts, or quickly deleting a video without explanation, is a clear breach of your trust.
Let me skip over this.
The Mutual Defense Pact has actually been in the pipeline for some time now. Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan said the efforts have been underway for 2 years and 8 months. Over the course of this period, there's been much talk about the increased cooperation between Turkey, Saudi Arabia, and Pakistan, and also Egypt, although Egypt didn't sign up to the pact last week. And last September, Pakistan and Saudi Arabia actually signed their own bilateral defense pact. So this has clearly not come out of the blue, and these three aligned countries are no strangers to defense collaboration. For instance, Pakistan helped train Saudi forces for decades, and both Pakistan and Saudi Arabia are buyers of Turkish military hardware, including drones and warships. More recently, Saudi Arabia has sought to form and lead a military coalition to protect shipping in the Red Sea. Among more than a dozen countries that have expressed support are Turkey and Pakistan, although exactly how this coalition might function remains to be seen. Regardless, last week's trilateral agreement appears to be the most significant move so far. At a meeting in Mecca, Islam's holiest city, on Friday last week, Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, Pakistani Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif, and Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman signed the Mecca Joint Defense Agreement. While the precise details of the agreement have not been made public, a joint statement said that the pact was built upon their shared strategic interests and long-standing defense cooperation.
Okay, I mean, it's looking good, but does this mean if Iran attacks Saudi Arabia again, then Turkey, Pakistan ends up joining to attack Iran, and then if Iran attacks Turkey, that brings in NATO? Like, this kind of seems like the web of alliances that you would see like back in World War One. Like, it feels like one slip up and we have an entire chain reaction.
The pact, the statement said, intended to further strengthen their collective security and promote peace, security, and stability in the region and beyond by strengthening collective deterrence against any act of aggression. The agreement includes a NATO Article 5 style clause that states that any armed attack against any one of the three states should be regarded as an attack against them all. Each country brings something to the table. Saudi Arabia has its oil wealth and diplomatic clout in the Muslim world and beyond. Pakistan has a sizable military and is the only Muslim majority nation armed with nuclear weapons. And Turkey has a well-established defense industrial base and one of the most powerful militaries in the region. Following the signing of the agreement, the Saudi government said that it was not an effort to establish a military axis or sectarian bloc, nor was it linked to any nuclear ambitions or arms race. And the Turkish government has described the agreement as purely defensive in nature, adding that it is not against any specific actor. But when you look at the agreement against the backdrop of the ongoing turmoil in the Middle East, it's hard not to see it as a response to that, and specifically a response to the military action across the region by both Israel and Iran. Furthermore, one Saudi commentator close to the royal court said that the tripartite defense pact reflects the recognition that American deterrence has been significantly weakened.
Okay, that I mean, it was pretty weak even in the beginning, but well, I say that as we are meeting the attacks against Iran, but the thing is, it wouldn't be as bad if Trump didn't have his like escapades going off and attacking Iran. I'm just saying.
And that the Iranian threat will increasingly need to be managed by regional powers. Despite the Saudi, Turkish, Pakistani assertion that the defense pact is not aimed at any particular country, it has unsurprisingly not gone down particularly well with Iran. One Iranian politician who sits on the Iranian Parliament's National Security and Foreign Policy Commission wrote that the Saudis should know that the paper agreement with Turkey and Pakistan will not bring them security, just as years of one-sided milking by the Americans did not bring them security. Change your policies so that you do not have to beg for security from others. The Israeli government
You
is...
know what is gonna be funny, but in like this generation, the amount of politicians that are about to talk shit to each other the moment they go to war, like, like it's gonna look like a COD lobby.
likely to be pleased either, given that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has previously warned against an emerging Sunni axis. Nevertheless, each of these three countries, all regional powers in their own right, have their own respective security concerns and reasons why they want to strengthen their collective power and influence. Turkey, for instance, is locked in hostile rhetoric with Israel, with whom it's competing for influence in places like Syria. Israeli politicians have sought to paint Turkey as the new Iran, while the Turkish government has labelled Israel as the greatest threat to regional security and stability. Meanwhile, Saudi Arabia has come under direct attack from Iran during the US-Iran war this year, and it now faces a renewed conflict with the Yemen-based Houthi rebels, who have been attacking Saudi energy infrastructure and Red Sea shipping. This is a particular concern for Saudi Arabia, as the Red Sea has become its primary oil export route due to the Iranian closure of the Strait of Hormuz. Pakistan has managed to stay out of the US-Iran war, instead pitching itself as a mediator, but it has not been conflict-free. Over the course of a number of days last year, Pakistan clashed with its primary rival, India, and in February this year announced that it was in open war against the Afghan Taliban, which it alleges of sponsoring attacks in Pakistan. The obvious question is, does this new defense pact mean that Turkey, Pakistan, and Saudi Arabia are suddenly going to jump into each other's conflicts? Well, the answer is probably not. It's worth recalling that despite Saudi Arabia and Pakistan signing their own bilateral defense pact last year, and the subsequent deployment of Pakistani military hardware and troops in Saudi Arabia, Pakistan has not entered into the Iran war or intervened against the Houthis.
Bruh.
Furthermore, Turkish Foreign Minister Fidan has said that, like with NATO, a country under attack would need to request assistance and define the type of help it requires, and that the practical implementation of assistance will be discussed by the allies in question. But we shouldn't downplay the significance of this development. Despite the vagueness of how the Mutual Defense Pact might be implemented, its very existence does increase the risk that these countries could be drawn into each other's military confrontations. But more broadly, it's significant because it's a step towards formalizing the regional security architecture that could grow to include more countries, something that Turkey has raised the prospects of. And it highlights that the three allied regional powers are seeking to take greater charge of managing regional stability and security, rather than relying on external powers like the United States. And given Donald Trump's desire for US allies to do more burden sharing in regards to defense, this new agreement will go down well in Washington. Now, this story about the new Mecha Defense Pact is constantly updating as more and more outlets are reporting on it.
Okay.
So it might feel like it's hard to keep up with the ever-changing.
We have, for the next video, is Harry Enton shares shocking findings in the latest polling data on the Iran war. Speaking of which, I was watching stuff on it like Not even like a few minutes ago. By a few minutes, I mean like probably 40. But it seems like Iran got the man by the balls. Like Iran is just gripping Trump's paws, and just holding them there.
How low the president's approval is on his handling of Iran. But it's not just that the numbers are low, it's how far they have fallen. CNN chief data analyst Harry Enton is here. There has been substantial movement over the years.
Yeah, substantial movement. You know, sometimes I look at the polling data and I find a surprising nugget, one that I honestly didn't think existed, but then I dug deep in enough and found it. And, you know, there was a great poll questions. Feelings.
Well, damn. Confident about half. I'm not really confident. Approved. No one approves it.
On Trump and Iran, handling Iran. You know, back in July of 2024, 53% of voters who said they were extremely motivated to vote said they were actually confident that Trump would be able to handle the situation in Iran. Look at where that number is now when it comes to his approval among the same group. Just 29% of those who are extremely motivated to vote in these midterm elections approve of the job that President Trump is doing on Iran.
Damn.
That is a giant fall. I mean, what are we talking about? We're talking about a 24-point fall in just 2 years. What was an advantage for President Trump going into the 2024 election amongst those who really wanted to turn out and vote has turned into a tremendous disadvantage this time around.
I mean, like, he just couldn't keep his hand out of the cookie pot. Like, he wanted the entire jar, and like he just fucked up. There's no way of putting it. Like, there's no other way of putting it. He just fucked up. He should have left when he had the chance. He should have actually never attacked. He should have just bluffed his way through it, if we're being honest. He should have never attacked. He should have just bluffed.
Promises were made and promises were not kept. They were broken as far as those voters were concerned.
Yeah, and that's the interesting thing, because he would go on the stump and talk about Iran because it was a net positive issue for him now. Now it is a very negative issue for
Republicans wish he would keep quiet about it.
Okay, now foreign policy in general is an area where in the past Republicans have seen more support than Democrats. Where do things stand now?
Yeah, if you see these numbers and you're a Republican running for the United States Congress in these midterm elections, you might say, hey, this won't impact me. Not the case. Just look at these numbers. Party trusted more in wars, conflicts, and terrorism. Back in January of 2025, look at this. Republicans were ahead by 18 points, a tremendous advantage. That advantage, because of President Trump, has turned into a disadvantage on a core key question that almost always favors Republicans. Now Democrats have a 2-point edge. That is a 20-point move that we're seeing towards the Democrats. Down the Republicans go, because down goes President.
Like, it is a lot happens in 1 year, but that much, goddamn. Like, he's just trying to sell out his entire party. Oh, what's good, man? Thank you for commenting. Yeah, but he's just trying to sell out his entire party. 20 points in 1 year?
Trump, they are simpatico on this one.
And if you think this is something, Harry, where do Americans think this is headed? That's a real doozy.
And this, I think, perhaps is the
most. Let me give my opinion on this. We're heading into like a 100% worse deal. Like as I was saying before, he just should have left. His best option was never attacking Iran and just bluffing his way through it. He could have made threats, but he should have never attacked them.
Shocking thing about this, all these numbers I'm bringing you today. I mean, just look at these. Okay, say U.S. will reach a good deal with Iran ultimately. Just 27% of all voters believe that.
Damn.
And get this, just 41% of Republicans believe it. We are seeing below 50% across the board on this issue. And this is the reason, I think, more than any other, that folks disagree with Trump and Iran, because they simply put don't see what the point of it is. They don't see a way out of it.
Yeah, 41%
Just
of Republicans.
41%.
That tells you something.
But that is a good thing. Like, how would you get out of this situation? Like, you done fucked yourself. Like, you done cooked it. Okay, how do you even begin fixing with this? Because the way I'm seeing it is it's going to take at least 5 years, like minimum, to uncook this situation.
Here about where the people think it's headed. All right, Harry, I'm old enough to remember a time when Donald Trump really wanted to win the Nobel Peace Prize.
Yeah, I think this crushed Donald Trump's chances of winning the Nobel Peace Prize. Chance Trump wins the Nobel Prize in 2026, according to the Cash prediction markets. You go back a little bit under a year ago, it was a 33% chance. Now we're down to just a 4% chance. The Iran war has brought Trump's chances of bringing the Nobel Peace Prize down with him. I also love this photo, by the way.
Yeah, 4%, a lot closer to zero than 33. And this is something that was wildly important to him at one point. Not talking about it so much now.
To Iran itself and its dealings with Iran, I mean, a week ago, the Trump administration said the deal to open the Strait of Hormuz was imminent. Then we saw Iran retaliating by dictating terms with, that list of maximalist conditions. How much do you think Iran are in the driving seat here and deliberately perhaps overplaying their hand to press their advantage at a time of political vulnerability for Donald Trump?
Well, Iran has a very valuable tool right now, and that's the ability to dial up political and economic pressure on him less than 12 weeks before a crucial election, the midterm elections for Congress, which could have an extraordinary impact on the rest of Donald Trump.
I mean, yeah, honestly, but he with this entire war, he just really handed the Democrats the win. Like, I'm not much into American politics, more geopolitics, but speaking of, like, he might actually hand them the Senate too, just on a silver platter.
Trump's term if Democrats manage to win one or both chambers of Congress. So the president has navigated himself into a position of great weakness here. I think the happy talk last week that, we're going to get a deal within a couple of days, once again, perhaps was the administration trying to mitigate the impact of rising oil prices as they were then in the markets, but also another occasion where it's been obvious that they have misread what is going on in Iran, the strategic reality of this war and the situation in the Middle East.
Oh, thank you, man. How long have you been watching my videos?
And that is something that both explains the position they're in now and has been consistent throughout the entire war.
And it doesn't feel very much like Donald Trump is listening to the electorate right now. I mean, how much longer can he afford, do you think, to let energy prices sour sort of voter perceptions of the economy, given obviously the midterms fast approaching?
Yeah, one of the reasons why it's difficult to see.
Hold up. My multi-chat, no. Give me a second. I don't know. Maybe you can see that. I hope so. Just started watching you a week ago and can't stop watching all your. Hey, thank you, man. I appreciate it. I really do. We're just gonna leave that right there. They should be able to see that when I post this.
See him sticking to this new line that, we're going to bring Iran economically to its knees, is because the prospect of high gas prices running up to the midterms could be so politically damaging.
Speaking of high gas prices, I'm hearing that we're running out of oil. Like, our strategic reserves are just getting obliterated here. And the same thing with Japan. I have to go now. Bye. Hey, no worries, man. See ya.
To Republicans. So it wouldn't, I think, at all be a surprise to see the president either revert to some kind of military action, not that that has been successful in changing Iran's mind, or to try and again create the impression that there is active diplomacy going on. Perhaps at some point he gets to a point of fatalism where he believes that he's not going to do very well in the midterms with the Republicans. We've seen some signs of that. He's said that Republicans and voters more generally are not angry with him, but they're angry with the lawmakers from the GOP in Congress. Perhaps he gets to that point and he presses on regardless. But it's a very difficult position for a lot of these Republicans. People are very angry about higher gas prices, as well as the impact on groceries and other prices that this war has had.
I mean, yeah, we're sitting up at like, I want to say 2.5% inflation, if I am correct. Inflation rate. Damn. I mean, holy. Come on. Oh, now I'm just not gonna be able to live. Holy. Like, the world just wants to fuck itself the moment I have to be an adult. The moment I want my turn to live. Crazy.
As well as Trump's trade war. So it's a very dicey political situation. And I think you're likely to see in the coming weeks more pressure from Republicans to try and get these prices down. But how he does that, he's stuck in this strategic box in Iran. He's been trying for months to get out of this war. It's difficult to see how he can fashion an exit in the coming weeks.
You just
said
can't.
This last round of talks was Iran's last chance before decapitation. So what now? What
You'll
comes
find
next?
out. You'll find out.
Are you still?
He doesn't know. There is no find out. You're finding out nothing. You're looking in a box, and there's just nothing in there.
Massive escalation, is that still on the table?
Well, we have that, certainly that ability if we want to do that. Yeah, you'll find out.
You said you're low-keying it with them,
I
that you're
think so.
semi-negotiating. What exactly does
What does low keying it mean? What does that mean? What does low keying it mean? Someone? Anyone? I'm just kidding.
that mean?
Well, they asked for reparations, you might say, or they asked for money for the damage that we've done. I said, that's a good idea. Well, we're going to ask for money for the damage they've done over a 50-year period. If there's damages to be paid, I think Iran should pay those damages.
Let's discuss with retired U.S. Army Colonel Peter Mansour. Colonel, thanks so much for being with us. So CNN is reporting
I'm going to leave that off here because I really just wanted to talk about the percentages. But let's go into another video. And this one is, if it'll load, Chud's freedom comes with a huge catch. Ooh. And then it's by Omeezy. Let's get it.
Bad day, but also great day for us over here at the Unemployed News Network because Chud the Builder has been released from jail.
Thank
After
you for the
$2
follow,
million
man.
behind bars, crazy stipulations coming from the different judges that exist in Tennessee, $1 million in bond money gathered up between 10 different companies. Dalton Etherly, aka Chud the Builder, is back on the mean streets. He showed his face on his live stream, and it seems as though he is free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, he is. Hold on. We not there.
In the boss man's yard.
Watch Chud the Builder is out on live stream singing to the heavens.
Is that like shot on a flip phone? What is this?
Mountaintops. Hold on, we not there.
In the boss man's yard.
480p. Like, what is?
Watch Chud the Builder is out on live stream singing to the heavens and mountaintops that he is being able to take a sniff of clean, fresh air that's not filled with dookie and musty men. He's not out the clear at all. There wasn't any reductions. There weren't any changes. He's literally just outside and has so many stipulations. So while he is out of jail, he's not exactly out of trouble. And I'm about to tell you exactly why. If you're new to this and you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button. It's going to go up.
You don't say. If you're watching this video or watching on live stream, please hit that follow button. Well, subscribe and like. I'm streaming on both Twitch and YouTube, so it's a bit jumbled here.
a long way for the channel. We're on the road to 185K, and you could get in early, and I do mean early. It's gonna come. Just don't be the one that's not there. Now, back into the video.
He's subject to a curfew from 9 p.m. to 5 a.m. He's got to be in his house. What's his address?
I'd rather put that under seal to please the court.
We got to know where to look. It's going to be wearing a GPS, and I want to know if he's not where he's supposed to be.
Understood. Because of the attention, he's about to be evicted. So I can
Find
provide.
out where he's going to be living. You have to have that address. He's been required to stay at that address from 9 p.m. until 5 a.m.
GPS monitor
Until from 9 p.m. to 5 a.m. Golly, he just cannot get out. How many hours is that? I really can't count, but that's like at that point, just stay in the house.
during 9 p.m. to 5 a.m. curfew, no firearms or weapons, passport application stopped/rescinded, and a gag order restricting what he can say publicly about the courthouse shooting. That's exactly what Chud the Builder was facing if he ever did reach this day that honestly I was dreading. Over here at the Unemployed News Network, I consider you guys to be family. And what better way to prove that than the sponsor of today's video, My Heritage.
Let me see if you get a code, my bro, and I'll leave it in. There. My Heritage. Wait, you can't see where I'm pointing, but My Heritage and code OMEASY if you want it.
The DNA tracking QR code. Bunch of fans. I guess they finally convinced some stupid bond company to let him go after all of his supporters came to social media and begged and pleaded and tricked an audience. Chud the Builder is free from jail. He was caught doing some victory lapping on live stream, and I thought this was some fake news, but I rubbed my eyes and a tear dropped down. Partially because Dalton Etherly, aka Chud the Builder, deserves to be behind closed bars. But then I thought to myself as to how great of a day.
Honestly, I think he's gonna mess it up again. He's 100% gonna mess it up again.
Could be. Now, I do think it's an important distinction. The gag order doesn't say that he can't exactly live stream, but he just has to watch what he says. But the fact that he ran back to the internet and ran back to social media so fast lets me know exactly who I'm dealing with. The only thing that the gag order is really restricting is him saying specific things about the what he's on trial for, going into specific details. But he can still go online, be his Chud the Builder self, asterisk. He can still make assertions about his innocence and things like that. But what I took away from this is that he ran back to the internet. Even though it was a quick snippet, he still went back to pump.fund, the platform that made him who he was. And ultimately, he ran back to the internet, a place and space that really got him in the position that he is in the first place. And this is where it gets interesting. Look, as somebody who has consumed a bunch of Law and Order, SVU, CSI, all these things, I've heard lawyers tell people repeatedly, hey, just lay low. Don't go back to the things that got you here in the first place.
We got 18 rounds for you. We ain't got nothing else. Don't follow me in my truck.
We don't want anything bad to happen. But this comment right here is exactly the reason why I can predict that Chud the Builder will be back and will violate this bond order. Chud the Builder starts off his online victory lapping by going to Twitter and tweeting out the words, no comment. And allegedly people are thinking that this is referring to the allegations that are being laid down.
Oh, bro, what a 180 that was. What an absolute 180.
On him as regards to his sex life. Then as people took to the comment section telling him that basically nobody cared about you, we've already moved on to the next thing, you're already finished, we're just waiting for this story to conclude. Chud the Builder, the arrogant, idiotic, numbskull that he is, decided to go back and forth with people saying, hey, this was peak copium. The reason why I think at this point is so important is because normally, again, somebody who has this problem with saying things on the internet, getting into these back and forths to the tune of pew-pewing somebody in a courthouse parking lot would say to themselves, you know what, hey, maybe I need to remove myself from vices. This is basically a drug addict going back to the drugs. This is basically somebody who is struggling with weight loss going and hitting up the Krispy Kreme donut shop. Chud the Builder literally can't stand the fact that people are talking about him, so he's already on defense mode. He's already on attack mode, and we've seen what happens when he's been on attack mode. And after posting that horrendous singing attempt online, he then decided today to post a video of him walking the Nashville streets in what seems to be some sort of tailored suit.
They call me the Builder. Chud the Builder.
literally back to where this all started. His entire
Crazy.
online attitude at this moment is that I am back and I'm hitting the streets, I'm being me again, but I do have to combat these narratives, but ultimately this should be the same old Chud that once left. The sad part for Chud is that there's some truth in what that one person did say. We've kind of moved on from the antics of it all.
I mean, like, honestly, I low-key forgot about the guy. Like, he had his 5 seconds of fame, and I never got mine. But, hey, once those pass, you kind of just lose the audience.
He's really worried about, you know, the stuff that you're trying to promote or you actually being back to live streaming. In fact, the entire narrative and story behind you, thanks to content creators like Poetic Flacco, has moved from the stuff that you did in the streets and more so to what you were doing in the sheets. The people are having conversations about your sexuality or maybe even you flirting with these underage people at the mall.
I was just talking about I need to find a cute little blonde somewhere. You got a boyfriend?
Yeah, and I'm 16.
Oh, okay, great.
As opposed to your free speech stances that you think that you're, you know, going out there and glorifying. Now, of course, we have to say that these are just online speculations and allegations, that these aren't anything that are established facts. But ultimately, what I'm saying is that the narrative has shifted. And now Chud the Builder is facing an entirely different controversy. One from a base that definitely hates what he is doing behind closed doors. So now he's on the internet thinking that he needs to beat these online narratives, but this is where he's gonna go wrong. Because people don't need him to beat the online narratives. Him and his camp need him to actually beat these prosecutors that are trying to put him behind bars for upwards of 56 years. Look, no matter how you slice it and dice,
that's more than they give the, like, white supremacist groups. Damn, 56?
Chud the Builder, in my opinion and others' opinion, is still royally cooked. He's still facing the aggravated assault. He's still facing the attempted. He's still facing the reckless endangerment with a deadly weapon. And there's a couple of more charges with the dine and dash and all these other things that he has facing. It does not look good for him. And no matter
wait. How with all that money you just still dine and dash?
how they tried to twist and turn these narratives while he was locked up. He had his flunkies on the internet. He had the Myron Gaines of the world grab some sort of lawyer to try to prove his innocence.
Out of all people, I would not want Myron Gaines defending me. I just wouldn't. Like, if I have to have Myron Gaines defend me, just lock me up. Just put me in jail. It's over.
Every twist and turn, when asked with every single legal expert, they basically said that, hey, this is looking very, very shaky for Chud the Builder. I wouldn't hold my breath on anything that he's got going on because what he's saying doesn't make sense. The math isn't mathing. 2 + 2 is not equaling to 4 for Chud the Builder. And with this attempted murder case moving on to a grand jury, he needs to really get with his legal team and not with the internet team to try to figure out how they're going to tighten up this self-defense case because it's not looking good at all. Remember, prosecutors argued what we all argued for the length of the Chud the Builder career, that he was the one provoking the altercation. He was the one who made the confrontation what it was and then decided to escalate based off of the fact that he thought he could get away with it. And we haven't yet seen the live stream as to what goes on, but the prosecutors and the district attorney are alleging that, hey, we've seen the surveillance footage from the courthouse because, mind you, he was at a courthouse where they'll have mad surveillance footage. And Joshua Fox, the man that he attempted to murder, struck him only as Chud the Builder was reaching for a gun in a place and space where you're not supposed to be carrying firearms. And this is where Chud's case is going to have him faced with so much jail time. I can only smile on the inside even though he's outside, is the fact that he said that, hey, I was reaching for some mace. I was looking to protect myself, even though that when they went to go search his body, when they went to go search his truck, there was no mace to be found. There was no proof of mace. There was no camera on mace. Nobody smelled any smells of mace. There was no mace to be found, but there was a firearm that was used on Joshua Fox. Chud's defense team, the one that are in the courtroom and the ones that are online, are claiming that he acted in self-defense. And they're victory lapping because he has stepped out from behind those prison doors and he is now back to live streaming. But ultimately, he didn't beat the case. He didn't win any self-defense ruling or anything like that. There were no charges that were dropped at all. The only thing that he did was be able to put together money from stupid people who were able to support Chud the Builder. He's still facing 2 cases in Montgomery County and Davidson County that are going to be to the review of grand juries. That Davidson County County one was the one where he decided that he was going to dine and dash and then resist arrest and then do disorderly conduct in the streets. And it has him having this separate $15,000 bond and different stipulations and circumstances that he has to face while he is out of jail. So yeah, Chud the Builder may be out on bond, but that doesn't mean that he has strict conditions that are tying him up and weighing him down. Now he has to face all of these other problems. He has to face the situation in Davidson County. He also has to face a previous situation that happened late last year where he got hit with some harassment claims. This specific one was scheduled for an August 10th hearing, but ultimately got pushed back. But what I'm really trying to say is, while Chud the Builder was facing all of these challenges in jail, whether he was going to be able to keep his cookies or keep his milk, or if he was going to be sleeping on the floor, or if he was going to have to be wiping somebody's toilet seat down, or, you know, doing all these other things, now he's going to have to face a plethora of other situations outside of the courtroom. Chud the Builder fans around the world can call this some sort of W, and immediately when I saw this, I thought the same thing. Dang, let the bad guys get a win. That's just the way that it's played. But ultimately, if you really think about it, he's going to be on GPS monitoring. He's going to have a curfew. They're going to be monitoring his social medias. He's going to have a gag warning. He literally can't carry a gun. They've restricted his passport application. He still has all of these cases going against him. Both of these cases are going to a grand jury review. And you have the powers that be in Nashville saying that if he breaks any sorts of laws again, they will revoke any bond that he has. And you have the powers that be saying that, hey, if he messes up on one bond, we're going to revoke all of the bonds that he has out there. So is this really a W? Is Chud the Builder really free, or does he still have a shit ton of restrictions? Does he still have to face a shit ton of consequences for his actions?
100%. Like, I'm gonna just say he's gonna be back tomorrow. Not literally tomorrow, but you get what I'm saying.
Streaming University saw the birth of an up-and-coming star in the streaming industry named Suburb Baby. Suburb Baby's budding streaming career could be attributed to winning MVP at Streaming University.
The MVP award goes to Suburb Baby.
Oh, we got 101K in the chat. Lame ass watching me do nothing but bullshit. Man, if you don't get a job, I'm over here committing crimes. You watching me getting inspired. Wrong with the world these days.
Seemingly overnight, he went from having hundreds of live viewers to tens of thousands of live viewers. Now, most people would say, hey, if you are the winner and most entertaining person at Streaming,
get your bag any way you need.
University, the biggest streaming event of the year, then naturally you would have such wild leaps and jumps. But the internet did what it does with all of the new and up-and-coming Twitch streamers, and they accused Suburb Baby of not just getting his success from Streaming University, but also being a view botter.
Y'all are dumb. I already told you someone's botting me and I'm trying to get it gone. Y'all don't listen. What do you want me to do? You can't give me a valid answer. You're just gonna keep talking. What are you talking about? I'm being botted. I can't stop it immediately. These want me to do something about it.
Now, why people would bot Suburb Baby, hell, I don't know. Maybe we'll explore that a little bit later in the video. But once he was calling these people out, well, the botting stopped and the viewers dropped. He would go from 85,000 people in his chat to just 6,000 people. And that raised a lot of red flags.
How you go from 83 to 6K? Just how you went from being yourself to writing. Just, people can do a bunch. They said bro only has 6,000 viewers and they laughed. Fam, how much do you have? Bro was laughing at 6. You know you can be a millionaire with 6K viewers, right? Bro, how much do you have?
Bro, no, bro. Now, for what it's worth, this doesn't mean that Suburb Baby was exposed, but it did mean that Twitch allowed fake viewers to become a part of his success story. And that made it harder to separate.
That's kind of fucked up. I mean, to be fair, streaming platforms do have an active botting problem. So I guess
rate the numbers that he actually earned from the success that he never asked for. But now the real test begins. Can Suburb Baby actually turn those thousands of genuine viewers who stayed into a long-lasting career? Or are they gonna be Thanos snapped and deleted just like those bots were?
Ooh, this looks nice. What is this? That's a good deal right there. Buy one, get one free.
Let me just your precious. You have a code. Proton.me.omeezy. If that's what you want.
Proton.me/omeezy, OHMEEZZY, and get your privacy back. Use that link to create your free account today. Oh, and by the way, your registration's expired. And that milk this. Look at his Twitch tracker. He went from 100 live viewers to hundreds of thousands of live viewers. And granted, it was during some situations where Kai Cenat, Duke Dennis Agent, Rage, DDG, the biggest streamers in the game, may potentially be on his camera, but ultimately they were on other cameras as well. And those cameras didn't reach those viewership numbers during that time. So why Suburb Baby?
If a stream is being viewbotted, what the fuck made you think I did it? Out of all people, I don't know how to fuck the viewbot. I would understand if you niggas said, oh, you're being viewbotted, but you're doing it? Bitch, like, I don't fucking know how to do that.
Right. Again, I'm not making any sorts of accusations about whether he did or did not do this, but when your chat says 80K but moves more like 3,000, then I think it's very valid and fair for a lot of people to question if this is legitimate or not. Now, for what it's worth, the numbers changing don't take away the fact that Suburb Baby still did what he had to do in order to win the MVP of Streamer University. None of this proves that he actually purchased the actual bots. None of this proves that the previous viewership was fake or real. The only people that would know this stuff is Twitch and their internal data system. But even after said drop off from 80,000 to 6,000, that's still a major audience for what it's worth. But so now streamer Suburb Baby sits in this awkward position of celebrating this number and then having people accuse him of being some sort of cheater. But if he ignores them, then it almost feels like he has something that he's hiding. If he denies any responsibility, they'll say that he's lying. And now every future milestone that he accomplishes while he's streaming will be.
I mean, I don't even know what I would do in this situation. I would probably just acknowledge it like a few times and move on. That's the best thing.
Question. But see, this is where the story gets really interesting, because being view botted is not the same as buying view bots. And I don't think that people understand that.
The bots are going away.
What are you bots?
Someone's botting me.
So you can tell me, so how do you stop a view bot?
I don't know.
Yeah, how do
and
you
people
stop
are
that?
thinking I'm doing it. Nigga, I don't know how to view bot. And you would think like these niggas could just get them gone.
So someone's view botting you, and how do you like tell them to stop?
You can't tell them to stop. Someone else has to just stop it. Like somebody higher up.
Hold on, Chad, don't that shit cost money?
It does.
It does?
Someone obviously has money though. Streamers not the only niggas that have money. The niggas view bot and have money. Cause like right now I have 46K. Right now how many do you have?
43K.
There's no way I have more than you.
I don't know, okay.
I got a couple thousand in here, but I don't got no 46.
So okay, how much you think views you got in your chat right now?
13 maybe? I don't know.
So you guys don't think you have 13K?
It could be around 20. I don't know, but I know it's not 46.
I said earlier in the video that there are a plethora of reasons as to why somebody would be view botting, especially not like their own self view botting themselves. Maybe you're signed to a management company or a label and they would send view bots to your page to make you look like a bigger streamer. Maybe you are a fan of a streamer and instead of sending gifted subs, you might send view bots to this person. Now, people are more likely to enter a busier stream. Larger streamers feel like they are more important or there's something important going on. Clip pages start to look at them differently. The sponsorships that they get are bigger. Other creators become more interested in collaboration. There's so many reasons as to why somebody would be sending view bots to their favorite content creator or streamer's platform. But there are also negative.
I mean, yeah, but you can get them banned doing that, right? Like, I'm pretty sure you can get them banned. That's kind of fucked up.
Impacts to view botting somebody. When somebody sees a meteoric rise like this, all of a sudden they become the talk of the town, but not necessarily for the good things. People start to question the integrity of said streamer. The real growth is no longer trusted, and then ultimately people don't want to be associated with them because they are a cheater. Or what could be even worse, Twitch could have a response to these view botting allegations, or at least what they think to be view botting allegations, and it could negatively impact said streamer. This is Twitch support's method of combating those that are view botted. Today we are introducing a new enforcement type that we plan to roll out over the next few weeks. For channels identified as persistently view botting, we will apply a cap to the streamer's CCV, concurrent viewers, for a fixed period of time on all Twitch surfaces. The cap will be based upon historical data regarding the creator's non-view botted traffic. Repeated violations will result in longer penalties. Streamers will be notified when an enforcement is applied, along with the duration of the penalty, and can appeal through the appeals portal. Twitch is basically saying that they'll throw a number on your page to say that, hey, this is what this person is getting based off of historical data. But there's so much context that's missing from this situation, and it could negatively impact somebody like a Suburb Baby. We know that he has had some sort of meteoric rise when it comes to Streamer University, and I don't think, if it's true that he's not doing the botting himself, he should be negatively impacted based off of somebody else sending bots at him. Instead of portraying the true numbers that reflect the growth from Streamer University, it'll ultimately show that he only has a couple hundred people because that's what the past 6, 7, 10 months have been saying about him. And now you have a situation in which a streamer is defending these numbers in order to clear their name, but only Twitch can do any sort of real investigation. So the problem isn't that just the bots can create this fake viewer count. The real problem is the influence that the fake number has on real people before Twitch can really get to it. Now, I'm not a big fan of this whole botting conversation because at the end of the day, you have to prove that you are still worthy to this audience that you fake captured or that you real captured due to fake memes. And so Summer Baby is right. Even if he was botting himself, there is still a new floor that he has obtained through Streamer University. And the one thing that he needs to be weary about is the fact that in order to maintain this newfound viewership, you don't need to burn yourself out by giving all of your content, by pushing yourself to stream to all these different heights and limits and whatnot. Ultimately, he needed to slow down.
You've been streaming so fucking much. You know what I'm saying? I love the grind. Like, you be going fucking insane, bro. But I ain't like, I think though, I'm gonna keep a buck. I really think you should like take a mental, like slow down a little bit.
The Bills don't care how you're doing mentally. They just want their money.
You made a good point. Yeah. You know, you made an absolutely good fucking point. You know, I'm gonna shut the fuck up.
Nigga, why you got 25 5-minute videos? I'm streaming now. At this point, you overworking. Right. I'm streaming now. Relax, bro. I'm honestly worried about your health, bro. You gotta know when. Bro, be a human for once, brother. I ain't made it yet, nigga. Yes, you did, bitch. You got MVP. I ain't drawing in the lane. What happened?
Brother, he had to make at least 500K. Bare minimum. Like, he made 500K.
Me when I got MVP, I got the Ferrari, nigga. Driving in Lambs and Rolls is not all it's cracked up to be, bro. We got all that shit, bro. It's not all it's cracked up. 25,000 videos.
1K.
For what it's worth, I think this Suburb Baby has a big and bright future in the content creation game. He's low-key speed running through all of the goods, the bads, the ups and the downs, only a week after Streamer University, the event that platformed him to the newest heights. Now, with that being said, this speed run might ultimately be detrimental, but he's now got a solid foundation of about 6,000-ish people watching him live, and all he has to do is turn that into a loyal and consistent fan base. Even if it looks suspicious because people are claiming that he is botting, even if it looks suspicious because he can't clarify where these things came from, he now has to take the foundation that he's made and build some sort of career.
I mean, yeah, 100%. You gotta keep the people entertained. Like, and to do that for a while, for like years, it takes effort, time, and skill. Now, I'm not sure even I have that. Like, even me, I mean, I'm at like, what, 99, 100 subscribers. So, most definitely don't have that. But let's move on. We're at 50 minutes on this live stream, so let's get it. Okay, this is a stupid one. Okay, hold up.
What are you looking at?
China's deadly bubble forehead disaster by Wumni. I really cannot pronounce that. But let's get it. Damn, that's a big ass forehead. I can't even say anything. I got mine.
What are you looking at? Oh, I've just got a lot on my mind. And this mind has no wrinkles.
I mean, you got a lot. You got a whole lot on your mind.
So recently in China, having a bigger forehead has become the new influencer
God
aesthetic.
damn it. Every time it just starts in China. No matter what I'm hearing, they always have some new cosmetic bullshit pushing out. Like, what do you mean? What do you mean bigger forehead? The only time I remember having a bigger forehead was attractive was like in the 1600s in Europe, where they would pluck out their hairs to have a bigger forehead.
People are going into beauty clinics to get this pill-shaped filler called baby forehead.
If anyone went up to me talking about some baby forehead injections. I'm decking you through a window. I'm defenestrating you through a window, right? I'm hopping out the window, okay? Landing on your body, and Hulk smashing your ass through the ground. What do you mean I get a pill lump shape in my forehead for how much? Show me how much.
Forehead injections injected into their foreheads. And then they start physically molding your face to get the shape that you want. It was easy, fast, flexible, and gave people that cuter forehead aesthetic.
I would die. I would just die.
Except, months later, random bumps start growing and your forehead starts getting bigger and bigger, protruding outward. And if you try pushing it back in yourself, it'll start multiplying. And that's
Is it a goddamn disease? What the fuck is that? Why did I even click on this video? Like, what do you mean multiplying? Is it like a bacteria? Is it like, why?
how millions of people started ending up with the so-called bubble forehead effect. Yes, the bubble saga continues, but
This
this one
is
might
like our third entry into the series, bro.
be the worst one, especially because you can go blind from it. Now, this all started because having a rounder and fuller forehead started becoming a beauty aesthetic. Who would have thought? Having a bigger
They need to
forehead
stop with these beauty aesthetics. They just need to stop, okay? If I hear one more beauty aesthetic coming out of China, I'm flying there myself and talking to the Xi Jinping about it. I'm not doing that, by the way. I mean no harm. I mean actually no harm. I'm about as sweet, like, hold up. I'm about as sweet as a marshmallow. Okay, I mean no harm.
is now a trend. It used to be the opposite.
Yes.
Recently, the full forehead aesthetic has been going viral on Douyin because having a fuller forehead is associated with looking younger, more beautiful, and healthier. It also gives the face a more warmer and pleasant
I
appearance.
should send my sister this. She has the biggest forehead known to mankind. I hope she doesn't
Influencers
find
call
this
this
video.
having a cuter forehead, which is associated with looking younger. The forehead is also a part of the face that reflects somebody's thoughts, emotions, and spirit. In Chinese culture, having a well-developed forehead will give you wisdom and health, and also fortune, and possibly your credit score. While a flatter forehead can make your face lack definition, and it's also associated with you looking more angry, more intimidating, and it can actually affect your future luck. I mean, in China, many places actually require you to take a photo of yourself before you apply for a job, and if you match that beauty aesthetic, chances are you'll get the position. Damn, should have invested more points into my forehead. And for those who believe that their forehead was too flat, forehead fillers had become the perfect solution to create a cuter and fuller shape. They call it the baby forehead aesthetic because it gives you a younger forehead. Now, the goal was just a small change, a little bump on your forehead to give you that S-shaped side profile. The goal is not supposed to look like you've got a lot on your mind. And this is where it gets pretty wild, especially in the way they perform these injections, because it is not no regular injection. No, there's an extra step. They physically use their hands and mold your face. First, you either choose forehead fillers, such as hyaluronic acid, my best friend. Or, if you want even longer results, you get fat taken from another part of your body. Either way, the doctor doesn't just simply inject one tiny spot and then magically your forehead becomes perfectly round. No, they inject the filler into your forehead to create this pill-shaped mold inside your forehead tissue. And when I say pill-shaped, I mean your forehead can literally look like there's this long rounded capsule sitting underneath your skin. Like somebody took a giant pill and then implanted it in you. The doctor then starts physically using their hands to mold your forehead. They press on the area with their fingers, spreading it, squeezing it, pushing it so that it's carved exactly to how you like it. And I'm sorry, but visually, this is wild because
Someone fucked her shit up. God damn. I shouldn't be laughing, but Holy man, who did you like that? Like, like it's she. I can't even get the words out. She looks like she wants to kill someone. I know she is mad. I I I hope you find better, bro.
They're literally sculpting your forehead like a clay pot.
Yeah,
Oh, I
but
see
isn't
now.
there like a many blood vessels and like other things in that area that you can't simply just move it around, surely, right?
It's just a new form of art, using your forehead as a canvas to create something gray, something beautiful, something that'll start growing. Now the goal is to distribute that filler, so instead of remaining in that concentrated pill-shaped mold, the filler should become more evenly spread across the forehead. Then, as the area settles, the filler is supposed to absorb into the tissue to give you that more fuller appearance, so you'll get that job interview. And remember what these injections were promoted for: foreheads that weren't full enough, or protruding outward enough, or have wrinkles. The hyaluronic acid was supposed to add volume underneath the skin and smooth out areas to get that baby forehead aesthetic that everyone wanted. Except months later, people started ending up getting these random bumps on their forehead, almost as if something was living inside
That
and moving
hurts.
around. And what does any normal person do when they see that? They start molding it again and
You know, sometimes when people think, I don't think they're using their brain like enough. They're using about half. Half is generous. They're using about like 15%, give or take. Because why the fuck would you do that? Well, why would you do that? At what point do you gain? Like, what do you gain doing that? Actually, like, what do you really gain? Okay.
squeezing it back into place themselves. But first, I want to take a second to thank the sponsor of today's
Okay,
video,
let me see.
Chime.
If you got a code, my boy, I would leave it in. There's your code for Chime, and I'm not even gonna pronounce it. Wani. Okay,
Top
we
link in
good.
the description, QR code on screen. It only takes a few minutes to sign up, and going through the link gets you an exclusive bonus, and it helps supports the channel. Thank you, Chime. Much love. They start pressing on it and trying to flatten out the bumps, and that makes it even worse because it starts irritating the reaction, and your forehead just starts growing and protruding outwards. This is how people started ending up with the bubble forehead effect. The foreheads don't just start growing and protruding because of counterfeit fillers. Basically, even just a slight bit of extra filler in
My fault. It's just something was taking up my screen.
injected can make it start reacting due to the blood vessels inside of your head. You push the bump to one side and then another bump comes out the other. And unfortunately, the bumps are just the beginning. See, these injections were marketed as baby forehead injections for that baby face aesthetic. But many of these beauty clinics started secretly adding this material called polylactic acid to save money and speed up procedures.
Oh no. Oh no no no.
This is a form of plastic that's used in 3D printing and food packaging. And what makes this scarier is that some of these doctors think that these bumps are simply due to the fact that there wasn't enough filler in the first place because it's uneven. So when people go back, they inject more to balance out.
Why are you going back to the same doctor though? What you should be no, you're not even going back to a doctor. You're going back to what? A plastic surgeon. You should be going to a doctor.
the bumps. And then they do the same thing. They start molding it together. So fix the problem with the problem. Why are we sending reinforcements? And that cycle eventually leads to millions of people having these extremely bloated foreheads. Even celebrities weren't safe from this. I mean, the Chinese actress Huang Yi was once filming a C-drama, and that's when
Damn.
netizens noticed there was a big dent on her forehead. And Huang Yi later posted pictures revealing 2 dents on her forehead, which she got from pressing down the forehead filler after it started growing. It's a lose-lose situation. You either let the bumps start growing bigger and bigger, or you press onto them and you end up with dents. Take a look at Miss Lang, a 38-year-old woman from Huanggang. She one day basically woke up, saw herself in the mirror, and saw wrinkles on her forehead, which she thought was making her appear older. Then she heard that hyaluronic acid could remove or reduce those wrinkles. So she started looking into getting the treatment, and at first, she actually consulted several local hospitals. Meaning, initially, she was actually looking at these legit medical professionals. But there was one problem: the price. You see, Chinese aunties don't just bargain for street food. We bargain for our healthcare. She discovered that a single injection at those qualified hospitals would cost around $300 to $400. And for Miss Lang, that was too expensive. So a friend of hers recommended her to a beauty studio.
No, absolutely not. What do you mean, beauty studio? Well, why am I getting injected at a beauty studio? Your friend don't like you. Your friend definitely don't like you.
And you already know exactly where this is going. This beauty studio had a significantly cheaper option. Employees at the studio showed Miss Lang a bottle of medication and told her that it consisted of imported injections. From where? We don't know. You know, maybe our girl Wang Jing would know, and her clone factory might have them actually. So the price? $80. What a bargain. So she got the injection, went home, and the following morning, she looked at her forehead and there were 5 massive bumps. So she let it settle for a while, and at first it did look like it disappeared. I mean, during this interview, she didn't have anything on her face. But literally just a couple months after, it came fighting back, and much stronger this time.
What?
The entire area on her forehead had become a large bump, and it started...
Bro. It looks like you... No. Like, you ever seen an SCP? But like, you know, one of those SCPs that infect people? You look like you have a hive growing out, like, in your forehead. Why?
growing outward. At this point, Miss Lang rushed to a hospital in Wuhan to seek medical treatment, and the doctors there believed that Miss Lang had actually been injected with a medication or substance of unknown origin. So even the doctors could not determine what had actually been injected, and mind you, it's only been a couple months. Whatever substance had been used had triggered a rejection reaction, causing extreme bumps to grow out of her head. And now she has to constantly go outside with a face covering, all because of a couple wrinkles on her forehead. They also reported how most low-cost beauty salons have a 75% chance or higher of using counterfeit products. The clinics attracting customers using cheaper prices will inevitably use cheaper materials. I mean, how else are you going to balance out your profits? And counterfeit products are only one possible explanation for these failed cases, because even with proper hyaluronic acid fillers, the amount you inject, the placement, the distribution, all of that matters. Overfilling or improper molding with your hands can easily make the forehead start protruding outward. You can't just go, all right, little more over here, a little more over there, and okay, perfect. Also, forehead fillers are not fixed. Chances are it'll deform, it'll start moving around, gravity will affect it, even your sleeping position will. So when you're freestyling on someone's forehead and molding it with your hands, you're pretty much taking a gamble on what's gonna happen in a couple months. Scratch that. It can actually come back to haunt you in a couple decades. There was a woman whose fillers started protruding out her forehead 30 years after the injection. Yeah.
30 years? Like, you can start a family and have college age kids in 30 years. Okay, a second haunting, I guess.
30 years. Back in 1996. I don't even want to know what materials they were experimenting with back then when we're already getting these bubble cases right now. And this is where it gets really bad because recently a new side effect has been popping up and it's probably one of the worst ones. Bumps, dents, bubble foreheads, okay, yeah, those are bad. But what if it starts affecting your eyes? This starts getting significantly more serious because your face has blood vessels and your forehead has a lot of them. And a lot of those.
Like, okay, at what point do people just say no? At what point do they just say, you know what? You know what? This was a bad idea and we're just not going to do it. Like, at what point do they just do that?
Are connected to your eyes. Which brings us to the most severe case of a forehead injection. A woman who walked into a cosmetic clinic wanting a cuter forehead, and then she went permanently blind. Recently, cases of blindness have been spreading everywhere because many of these unqualified professionals are accidentally injecting into a blood vessel, which causes blockage to your brain. This was a 25-year-old woman who visited a cosmetic clinic for injections to make her forehead fuller. The clinic was located in Sinyi district and the treatment she received was packaged as the elf needle. Don't even ask me
Like the brand here?
why it's called that. First baby forehead injection and now elf needle. If they ever make one for the guy downstairs, I'm folding.
Me
Now
too,
this
bro.
woman wanted her
Me too.
forehead to look more fuller and rounder, and you can see that there are multiple needle marks across the left side of her forehead. Like a lot of marks. And during the injection,
I can't even speak. Why? Dude, just why?
look more
Like, this
fuller and
entire
rounder.
video has just been, why? Why do this? What do you gain by doing this? What could be the benefit? Because let's say everything goes perfectly. Now what? What do you do? If everything goes perfectly, what happens next? I'm trying to wait for a response, but I'm not getting one. So let's get it.
And you can see that there are multiple needle marks across the left
Just
side of her
freehanding it.
forehead. Like a lot of marks. And during the injection, she had her eyes closed. While the doctor was working on her left side, suddenly she sees a flash of light in her left eye. No pain at all. But when she opened her eye, everything was completely black. She immediately told the doctor and nurse what had happened, and they later found out that they injected.
What is? Sorry, I joined late. I didn't know the question. Oh, nah, you're good, man. Oh, thank you, man. So the question was, if everything goes perfectly, right? Okay, you get your plastic surgery. Everything, you look exactly how you want. Now what? But what do you do? Like you spent a ton of money on this surgery. You got the surgery. Everything looks as you want it. And now what? What do you do with that? Do you go outside? Do you play a game? Like, no, not me, but them. That's what I've been saying, man. Like, look. What's the point in that? I mean, yeah, you could do that.
A cuter forehead. No comment. And lately, all these failed cases of blindness due to injections started spreading rapidly. You see, there's just simply way too many important structures going around in your forehead, which is what makes forehead injections one of the most dangerous places to actually get fillers done.
Yeah.
I mean, the cycle is just terrifying.
You could want the confidence, but I'm thinking maybe a diet, working out, going outside, getting some sunlight might help you a lot. Or, talking to people.
At first, you get the forehead filler and you get a more rounder and slightly fuller forehead. Then bumps start appearing, and then you get more to even out the bumps. Then more bumps start appearing. You get more to even out the bumps until your forehead just starts protruding outward and you get that.
You ever seen
bubble
like a walrus or like a dolphin? At this point, they might as well just start sending out sonar.
forehead effect. And obviously, these cosmetic procedures are sold through the success cases. One aesthetic starts trending, then influencers copy it, these clinics advertise it, and
At
it's
this point,
basic.
they just gotta give up. They gotta pack their bags. They have to cut their losses at some point. I'm thinking they're running out of people to like debauch you. I know exactly. Okay, and for this time we got AB and Dean's breakup exposed a bigger problem by Omizi. Let's get it. You know those white ones? Exactly. I don't know what they're called though. But I know what you're talking about.
Another day, another Adrian Broner and Dean the Great fight.
For real, man, chill out. He getting serious. He getting serious. I don't care, bro. I don't give a fuck. Don't be a part of this shit,
Bro,
Adrian Broner and Dean.
speaking of which, how old is Adrian Broner? Like how old? $37? God damn. I mean, if that's what you're looking like at 37,
Dean the Great were supposed to be
must be rough.
going on this redemption arc. They were going into fight mode and getting ready for their big boxing tournament, ultimately showing the world that not only could they take the boxing part serious, but that they could change their content along the way. But ultimately, they've hit some bumpy, and I do mean bumpy parts of the road along the journey. And this time, I don't know if they can
But this
recover.
is like actually such a toxic relationship.
Nah, nigga, it's business. Stop fucking the business up, nigga. I don't give a fuck, nigga. Don't be a part of this shit then, nigga. I don't give a fuck. My motherfucking business up, nigga. You gonna get with the program and don't get with it, nigga. Keep up money, keep up business, bro.
Now, you would think that the lawsuit that Adrian Broner was facing would be the downfall of the duo, or you would think that the lawsuit that Dean the Great would be the downfall of the duo, but no. Their latest argument exposed a bigger problem that has been festering between the two of them. The ego has finally gotten to Adrian Broner. He feels as though he's been carrying this content while Dean the Great receives the views, the control, and the credit for it all. So it doesn't seem like the court cases will be the thing that ends the dynamic duo, but it may be the case of who deserves more credit that will bring them to their knees.
Let's end this shit, okay? I ain't gonna lie. Shit don't work, my nigga. Bro, it's bad business, bro. It's bad, all that.
If you're new to this and you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button. It's gonna go along.
If you would, please, for this one, hit that subscribe button and like the video. That was for the people that are going to be watching this, well, in video form, but currently live streaming.
Long way for the channel. Me and you have no beef.
Zero
I
beef.
understand how important and credible you guys are. Hell, you got me to 180
Thank you,
thousand
man.
subscribers. And if you haven't, there's still an opportunity to join. Now, back into the video. Now, for the most part, Dean and AB have spent this past month really focusing on the boxing. They have big fights that are coming up very, very soon. And for what
I'm
it's
gonna be
worth,
honest
they
with you,
need these.
I don't really pay attention to like streamer boxing. Well, I mean, not really. I don't pay attention in boxing in general.
Transformations that they've been taking, or else they'll get knocked out in the ring. And to give them their kudos and their credit, they have been taking it very, very seriously. The content has felt totally different. No longer we have alcohol or women or dice games involved. This is just good, clean, wholesome, and for the most part, inspirational moments that are caught on camera. And I don't know what happened along the lines, but at some point somebody said, hey
I
guys,
find it
we do have to do
interesting,
some
but
creative
like,
stuff. Inserts the talent show where the brawl of them all
like
went
I like
What's up, y'all? I'm
real
Blue Ryan
boxing.
Bass. What's your talent?
I say that with
and,
a
where you from?
caveat, but like not all this like streaming boxing. All like I want to see talent.
I'm from Atlanta, Georgia. I'm basically that nigga, and I'm that bitch on roller skates.
Is he gay?
Hey, get cuz up. Hey, Hey, roll cuz down the steps. Hey, security, man, roll cuz down the steps, man. Man, roll his dizzy ass down the steps.
While doing said talent show, Adrian Broner kept interrupting
I
with
mean,
his jokes,
it
with his
isn't, but
normal
they get
antics, with
paid.
his normal behavior. Dean repeatedly has to tell him, yo, bro, chill out. You're messing things up.
We ain't gonna start sipping now, nigga.
Chill out, cuz.
Yeah, nigga.
Nah, for real, my nigga, chill out.
Oh my god.
Hey,
Oh,
you going up?
he getting
Go ahead,
serious.
go
He
ahead,
getting
go.
serious.
Nah,
He getting
they
serious.
gotta play that
bro.
piano
I'm
today.
gone. This nigga got sentimental on me.
And Adrian Broner decides to take this personally. But it's something that Dean the Great said specifically to AB that I know got under his skin. And as somebody who has been in these exact same situations, I know exactly what's going on.
I don't give a f***ing my motherfucking business up, nigga. Keep f***ing up money, keep f***ing up business, bruh.
Now, as a real emotional nigga, I know exactly what that means. Fucking up the business, get with the program. I'm not gonna lie to you, those sound like real personal attacks. Those aren't things that you just say unprompted. Those are emotions and feelings that you've kind of either been burying or pity-patting around for a long time. The thing that made this argument so different is that there are none of the vices. The women aren't there, specifically in the manner of like twerking and, you know, we're trying to captivate their attention. There's definitely no alcohol. They're on this boxing journey. The money is there, but not in the same exact way. But so when a normal Adrian Broner bit got Dean the Great so emotional, hell, got both of them so emotional, I thought to myself, that reminds me of this old saying that somebody told me. If you can only tolerate somebody with alcohol, then you probably
I
can't tolerate
stream
them.
kinda like once a week, but I see if I can stream at, I want to say 6 p.m. around there. What time is it? Next week. So see ya, man. Have a great day though.
At all. And it seems as though both Dean the Great and Adrian Broner are finally sick of each other.
Let's end this shit, okay? I ain't gonna lie.
I think a telltale sign that there was like a real deal issue going on is the fact that they cut this stream off, which was supposed to be some long marathon stream, 45 days, them getting prepared for it. If you are willing to break a marathon stream that you've continuously been on, then that means there is some true behind the scenes stuff that most of us are not privy to. Finally, when we saw these two back on camera, Dean the Great had been gone away from hours and AB didn't return until the next day. Now the argument may have ended when the cameras moved on, but Adrian Broner had already revealed
thank you, man.
issue
See
that
ya.
could explain why this whole relationship feels different. When they came back to camera, something shifted, something changed. And the focus no longer became about the boxing match, but it became more about the numbers. And this is where things go downhill.
They got like a stop on my shit or something. They got to, bro. I go live by myself, I'm at 10, 15,000. Why my shit just stay
Bro,
at
take what you
2.5?
can get, my man. Why we fucking up the blessings? Like you in your bag era and you fucking it up. Like you in your bag and you're complaining. All you have to do is just put the head down and work. Sure, I mean, viewers, sure, they can increase it more lively, increase your chances of making money, but that's still a good count. Like, when do you get so big when those little stuff in your life just doesn't hit no more? Like, you need everything to be bigger the next time.
Followers steady going up. I got 186,000 some followers, but my shit only go to 2.5, and it just stay right there. Chat faster than Dean's. That's suspicious too.
With more than 180,000 followers, Adrian Broner has to be one of the fastest growing streamers in 2026. If we had to have some sort of objective rookie of the year, breakout year type of voting, he'd probably be one of the finalists. But his questions are aligning with my questions. Why is he only averaging about 2,000 to 2,500 when he's doing these streams with Dean the Great? Now, his claims are that normally when he's streaming by himself, he can do 10 to 15,000 alone. He's also making claims that his chat is moving much faster than Dean the Great's. Now, for what it's worth, this type of speculation is okay for us to do on this platform, Twitter, and in our public forums. But when friends, co-workers, people who are producing content together start questioning these numbers, then you can see that there is about to be a great divide. Somebody told me one time, and I know I keep referencing these old school sayings and phrases, but if you want to mess with a man, you touch his money, you touch his women, and you touch his food. Now, ain't no food in this situation, and it damn sure ain't no women in here. Messing with the money, though, and how it's portrayed, displayed, and anything
Messing with the money might get you out of there, man.
Thing in between can be detrimental.
I tell this nigga I love this nigga every day, cause before I met this nigga, I was down on my dick.
Oh,
I was nothing, y'all. He called me one day, cause he looked up to me all his whole life. He's on my dick his whole life. And after the first stream, I've been like this, bitch.
This is a complete tonal shift from Adrian Broner, a man who was once grateful for the opportunity of a lifetime to change the trajectory of the path that he was going on, to go into the streaming world, build back up his funds, be able to provide for his family, is now looking at the dollars and making sure that it makes sense.
You know why I fuck with my chat? It's all real motherfuckers in here. We don't do the bots and shit.
If you would have presented 2,000 to 2,500 live viewers to Adrian Broner 2, 3, or even 4 months ago, he would have fell to his knees and been overly grateful about what's going on. But now he's starting to do the math and it's not adding up to what it's supposed to be. Now, is he justified? I truly believe so. But with that being said, I understand that this can create the
I'm a little
vision
bit
of a
biased.
lifetime between two people who are supposed to be friends, brothers, and most importantly, business partners. None of this stuff proves that Adrian Broner is being intentionally capped on his views. None of this proves that Dean the Great is view botting, but what it does show is that Adrian Broner feels as though there is some unfair treatment going on. We know how important Adrian Broner is to these Dean the Great streams. Hell, we know what Dean the Great was getting into before.
Look at that. Oh, 200 gifted.
It would only make sense that Dean the Great would go out of his way in order to provide for Adrian Broner to create content on his own in order to keep him satisfied for what the issues are today.
I know a lot of his communities in my chat spam hating. So what I did for y'all, so y'all can get off my dick, I got him his own cameraman on my tab. He got to sell this shit, bro. I can't be the pilot every time.
Not to be Mr. Psychoanalyzed, but I could see what was going on in his eyes. And you got the cameraman on your tab. I know exactly where this is going. While Adrian Broner sees himself as the engine of the partnership, Dean sees it a totally different way. And right now, the seams are starting to split on a dynamic duo that is supposed to be just getting started in the content space. You have to applaud what Dean the Great has done for Adrian Broner, even if, and this is of course sans the problematic stuff, we'll get into that in 2 seconds, but ultimately he has brought him to a different level of fame and notoriety that he hasn't had since his boxing days. Adrian Broner brings the comedic relief, he brings the timing, he brings the antics, he brings the funny, all these different things, but Dean the Great brings the structure behind it all. He brings the organization and he sets up a good hitman for killing people with laughter and kindness and stuff like that. Now, I believe that this combination is perfect for the on-camera stuff, but that doesn't mean that we can't take care of the stuff behind the scenes. And the stuff that's being displayed on camera is something that I think a lot of people have been thinking has been bubbling up over the course of a few months at this point. The fights used to be funny, they used to be laughable, but as somebody who is a man who has dealt with other men, specifically in the realm of business, I can kind of tell when somebody's being serious and when somebody's laughing.
But after this video.
Usually you don't have laughs and key moments about money. That is not something that you do at all. And I think a lot of people watching this video, because I have a pretty dominating male audience, will know exactly what I'm talking about. You're not joking with somebody else about money or contributions to a project that ultimately lead in money or anything of the nature that surrounds itself in money. It's just not happening. It's not positive. And the sad part about it is that they both are gonna need each other in order to get through their up and coming court battles that they have going on. You know, Dean the Great facing 15 years, and you know, Adrian Broner facing these charges about him dumping buckets of
what Dean the Great do
in order to get through their up and coming court battles that they have going on. You know, Dean the Great facing 15 years, and you know, Adrian Broner facing these charges about him dumping buckets of water on a woman for not having schmexual intercourse or favors with him. Caught on stream, by the way. Strange enough. But they're definitely gonna need to pay for legal fees, set up good PR for each other, all these different things. And honestly, if they broke up right now, it'd probably lead to bad content, like worse content, not from like a cool, this is fun perspective, but from the perspective of, hey, I'm gonna get myself in trouble. So while Adrian Broner and Dean the Great returned to the stream the next day like nothing happened, I would go as far as to say that's probably not the best thing to do. Maybe they did it behind closed doors, but ignoring the argument won't fix what caused it. The problem is no longer about alcohol or women or money. money. It's about getting the credit. It's about the egos stepping in front of this. It's about, am I getting my just desserts for what's going on? Why is he getting more notoriety? The problem now is that both men believe that one needs one more than the other. And this is just a PSA warning to Adrian Broner, Dean the Great, and anybody else who's doing any sort of group content, or hell, you don't even have to be doing content. You could just be doing in different endeavors and stuff like that from a business.
It's kind of crazy. Like, I didn't know they were facing all those lawsuits now. But give me a second. Hold up. It's gonna be this. The first man tried. Let me just confirm. So which one is it? Is it this one? Or oh, you want me to react to one of your videos? Okay. Let me see, because I just gotta make sure there is nothing like too bad about it. So I'm gonna mute myself just for the stream. Uh, okay. I'm gonna be real honest, man. For my sort of content and like, I just don't feel comfortable because you're like you seem to be a bit young, you know. But hey, I'm gonna leave this in, and if the people want to go check it out, they can. And I'll probably put it in the link of my description. You got it? But like, I just don't feel like for what I do and what I be saying to like do that. But I'll leave it in. But let's go to the next one.
One of the biggest problems with the social media generation is that we think that everything, and I do mean everything, is content. From stuff that is fun, entertaining, and engaging to serious matters of heart, of relationships.
I forgot to say what the video title was. They gave EDP, not me, exactly what he wanted. My own music.
Social media generation is that we think that everything, and I do mean everything, is content. From stuff that is fun, entertaining, and engaging to serious matters of heart, of relationships, stuff that even deals with minors. If there's a way to profit off of it, somebody has probably told somebody to create content surrounding it. And that's exactly what people are saying about this latest documentary about former
He can barely fit in that chair.
YouTuber EDP445. If you didn't know who EDP was, you would probably think if you muted every time he said the word minor or every time he said something about schmecks, he was just some outlandish and outrageous content creator. But you see, that's the exact problem with this documentary. As I tuned into parts of this documentary, I realized just how unserious the whole EDP culture, documentary culture, and everything surrounding it has truly become.
See this right here, dog? See, this is you have to watch out for, man. You got little young ass high school mother, you know what I mean? I mean, let's be.
God damn it! Why? Why?
Like, you know, like people, you know, guys, you know, they think about, you know, have a 15-year-old, 16-year-old.
Execute him. You just execute him. After what I'm hearing, execute him. Leave him.
Oh that
I'm not
walking down the
promoting
street,
violence, by the
she's
way.
in high school.
I'm just saying, like, if it were to happen, we wouldn't be missing out on too much.
She's hot as you know what I mean? Now, mind you, my gets put out there.
But this phenomenon that we're facing of the prioritization of content as opposed to the ethics behind making said content is getting totally out of hand to the point that even the creators are noting the fact that, hey, we're probably doing something wrong here.
I think there possibly maybe could have been different results in this case if me and Gideon did not confront EDP or take the situation into our hands.
Bro, you should have left him.
That's a
You
hard
should have
maybe,
left.
though.
Hold up, I'm gonna and not end it here, but I'm gonna just let you guys watch this video because I don't know, man. This might actually get me demonetized. But I'm gonna take a wee quick break and I'll be RB. Hello, and we are back. So today not today, in this stream. Can Ukraine force Russia into peace this winter by war fronts? Let's get it.
For a few months each year, the nation of Ukraine is forced to fight two enemies at once: the invading forces of Russia and the brutal, unforgiving Eastern European winter. When the winter months arrive, Ukraine is given practically no choice except to hunker down, defend its airspace as best as possible, and try to make it through. For Russian dictator Vladimir Putin, winter is a weapon. His forces destroy power plants and electrical infrastructure and try to starve Ukraine of any other sources of fuel or heat, even if it means that civilians will freeze to death in their homes. Unfortunately, recent history has shown that it's all too easy for Russia to engage in its winter campaign and condemn ordinary Ukrainians to months spent shivering in their blankets. This year, however, Ukraine might finally have bought itself a critical opportunity, a window to turn the tables on the Kremlin and bring the pain home to Moscow. From the Russian capital to the shining city of St. Petersburg, from its oil terminals to its e-commerce warehouses, Kyiv has shown an unprecedented ability to strike deep into the Russian heartland, even uncomfortably close to Putin himself. Russian air defenses are failing. The Russian chain of command seems unable to properly respond, and Russia has reason to fear that its citizens simply cannot take the pain. Ukrainians are facing all-out invasion. Their very survival is on the line, and after too many tough winters, the population may be tired, but it remains unbroken. Russia, however, has spent the last several years trying to insulate its population from even the slightest hardship coming from its special military operation on the edge of Europe. In the winter of 2026, Ukraine finally has the chance to break the Kremlin's spell and give Vladimir Putin a taste of his own medicine. So it's time that we try and figure out what Putin would do to avoid the retribution he seems to fear most of all. A childish delusion. So all the way back in 1942, the head of Britain's Strategic Bomber Command, Sir Arthur Harris, came over the airwaves to explain his nation's new policy against Nazi Germany. In the process, he provided one of the more memorable quotes of the entire war, and one that happens to rhyme with the situation in Ukraine and Russia today. To quote, "The Nazis entered this war under the rather childish assumption that they were going to bomb everybody else, and nobody was going to bomb them. They sowed the wind, and now they're going to reap the whirlwind."
Honestly, never heard of that quote. Well, you know what? It's understandable, though.
It is a lesson that quite a few nations have had to learn the hard way, both before and since. And it's a lesson that we see other nations learning even today, like the United States has had to do as it deals with unexpectedly strong resistance from the nation of Iran. It's a very bad idea.
Should have not happened.
Attack an adversary if you can't possibly conceive of the idea that your adversary could attack you. In the days before the start of this war, Russia was expected to treat Ukraine in the way that, say, a world champion boxer treats a heavy bag. Relentless, one-way punishment until the guy doing the hitting decides that he's had his fill for the day. Of course, Russia forgot the cardinal rule of modern ground invasions: bring enough fuel for the tanks, and was very quickly reminded that the Ukrainians did, in fact, also have guns. The early years of Russia's invasion were grinding, brutal, one-way traffic against Kyiv. Russia was gaining ground incredibly slowly and at unbelievable human cost, but it was still gaining ground, and it had seemingly limitless troops and munitions to get the job done. But nowhere has Moscow taken the approach that Sir Arthur Harris called out, operating on the assumption that Russia would bomb everybody else and nobody would bomb Russia, than in its long-range missile and drone campaign against Ukrainian infrastructure and population centers. Russia came into the war with some very clear advantages in this area. A massive arsenal of weapons that could reach deep into Ukrainian territory, its own fleets of satellite targeting data and heavy launch aircraft, and the fact that it had already been subjected to the crush of Western sanctions, and thus had nothing to lose. Ukraine, meanwhile, didn't have the long-range weapons it needed to actually reach into Russia. Even if it did, it had neither the targeting data it needed nor the ability to bypass Russia's supposedly robust air defenses. Then, even if Ukraine fixed those problems, its international allies would never allow long-range strikes into Russia using their military hardware, lest Putin use the strikes as an excuse to escalate into a much wider war. Finally, even if Ukraine did overcome the fears of its allies, it certainly couldn't attack energy infrastructure or population centers in the way Russia did. After all, Ukraine's support from the US and Europe remains highly contingent on their ability to portray Ukraine as a good guy, both for diplomatic and political reasons, and bombing civilian targets just isn't a thing that the good guys do in the global public's imagination of the way that wars are fought. So, Russia took full advantage of its edge in long-range strike capability and began a policy of all-out devastation of Ukraine's power grid. In the winter of 2022 into 2023, Russia crippled Ukraine's power supply and created near-constant rolling blackouts, including in Kyiv and other major cities. In the winter of 2023, Russia introduced larger drone swarms and focused on the destruction of regional support infrastructure and supply chains to systematically destroy Ukraine's ability to generate energy. In the winter of 2024, Russia's attacks multiplied in both size and frequency while advancing its drone swarm tactics to intrude from all directions. The winter of 2025 was the worst one yet, with Russia deliberately targeting large apartment blocks, water supply networks, and heat generators that were meant to support the civilian population during the hardest Ukrainian
that's
winter.
That's kind of fucked up. Not even kinda, it's just fucked up.
Of the year thus far. While the strikes weren't enough to force Ukraine to surrender, they did have a devastating effect on military and civilian morale. All the while, Russia continued to operate on the assumption that Ukraine couldn't strike back, wouldn't strike back, and had no right to strike back. When Ukraine occasionally used Western-made missiles to strike a few hundred kilometers into Russian territory, Russia vowed fire and brimstone against the entire Western world. When Ukraine occasionally engaged in larger counter-offensive actions, like the Kursk offensive it started in August of 2024, Russia responded as if Ukraine had sunk to some barbaric new low, conveniently failing to mention any of its own conduct.
You know what? It is kind of crazy how much you can go tick for tat, but like you're constantly complaining about someone doing onto you what you did onto others.
The war. But across 2026 thus far, Ukraine has demonstrated that its own long-range strike capabilities are evolving rapidly. After several years of war, Ukraine has developed substantial intelligence-gathering capabilities and an arsenal of Ukrainian-designed, Ukrainian-made missiles and drones. It's degraded Russia's air defenses and given them a rather Swiss cheese-like quality, with massive coverage gaps and holes for Ukrainian projectiles to fly through. Because it's making most of its own long-range kit in-house, Ukraine isn't subject to Western restrictions on the ways that it uses those weapons. And after Russia spent years demonstrating that it will gleefully target cities and civilians at will, Ukrainian strikes against, say, oil infrastructure or dual-use facilities just don't seem that terrible. Across the year, Ukraine has produced some fantastically meme-worthy results with its long-range weapons, from the blast of the Moscow oil refinery that sent the roof of a storage tank flying through the air, to the strikes against St. Petersburg during its International Economic Forum while Putin was present in the city, to the fact that Ukraine's almost completely shut down the Sea of Azov, a body of water completely encircled by territory that Russia controls. Russia's response has been comical at times, from drunken foot soldiers sent to shoot machine guns from fully extended bucket lifts to the fact that the...
It's kind of crazy to say, but Russia might be running out of human waves to send.
Aforementioned storage tank roof in Moscow was sent flying not by a Ukrainian strike, but by a Russian air defense interceptor that veered off course. And as the summer months start to wane, Putin and his Kremlin advisors would be wise to start thinking about what Ukraine could accomplish in a few months' time. To this point in the conflict, Ukraine hasn't had the means to destroy Russian energy infrastructure in the same way that Russia's done to Ukraine. Now, however, Ukraine has achieved such immense long-range success that Russia can't hide its vulnerability. Most of Russia's territory is only covered by relatively sparse air defenses, with the best remaining systems being pulled back to Moscow, St. Petersburg, and other key centers of Russian commerce and political power. Even the Crimean Peninsula, the crown jewel of Russia's invasion, has still been left without adequate air defenses, and the peninsula has paid dearly as a result. Quite frankly, even without an opportunity to test this statement against operational reality, we are at Warfront comfortable making a bold claim. Ukraine's ability to target power stations across Russia this winter should not be in question. Ukraine might not be able to hit every target with every projectile, but it can break through Russian defenses consistently and with devastating effect. That's going to be especially important for Kyiv this winter, because even though Russian strikes on Ukrainian energy infrastructure have been effective, there's reason to believe that Ukraine's impact on Russia could be even greater. As we mentioned in the introduction, wealthy Russian civilians have enjoyed a life of relative luxury across most of this war. Most of the war's forced conscripts have been recruited from poor areas or from third countries, and while Putin has toyed with the idea of a larger mobilization, he's been able to avoid mass mobilization from Russia's richest population centers. For most of the war, Russians' lights have stayed on. The skies have stayed clear, and even if they might have privately disagreed with Putin's so-called special military operation, they had no reason to think about the war as it relates to their day-to-day lives. Unlike Western democracies, Russia is a pretty thoroughly repressed place, historically and currently. But history shows that when public discontent does boil over in Russia, the results are usually pretty damn catastrophic for whoever's in charge. So, Russian leaders have been working overtime to ensure that ordinary people never need to feel upset or vulnerable because of the war, and that they aren't inconvenienced in any major way. Putin would certainly like to have the people's support, but he'll happily accept the people's apathy this year.
Did he ever have the people's support? Like maybe 2014 moving onwards. Until the Ukrainian attack, maybe.
However, the costs of war are finally coming home to the Russian people. The impact's been felt most acutely in places like Crimea, the occupied Ukrainian east, and the Russian areas closest to the border, but the effects are spreading rapidly across the country. Much of Russia has been struggling with fuel shortages for months after a Ukrainian campaign against oil infrastructure that really picked up in the late spring. Residents in Moscow and St. Petersburg have had to get used to the clouds of toxic smoke that rise over their cities every few weeks, and the sight of Ukrainian drones and missiles streaking overhead. On our Warfronts team's newsfeed, we've been treated to constant videos from ordinary Russian civilians tearfully lamenting attacks and inconveniences that are really rather minor compared to what Ukrainians have experienced for years on end. And unfortunately for Russia, Ukraine knows that this pressure point exists. In fact, in a move fitting for a nation led by a former professional comedian, Ukraine has made good old-fashioned trolling into a core part of its long-range strike strategy. Sometimes the trolling comes by way of rhetoric, Ukraine granting Vladimir Putin permission to hold his Victory Day parade this May without Ukrainian interference, and then confirming through drone strikes a few days later that Ukraine could have hit the parade all along.
Bro, you know what? Like I said before, this is going to be a fun time to live in when all these world leaders go to war with each other and they just shitpost about each other. Like they just meme each other.
Sometimes the trolling is more kinetic in nature. Although Ukraine has emphasized that the Russian e-commerce distributor Wildberries, basically Putin's equivalent of Amazon, ships key weapons components to support the Russian war effort, it's also a major part of ordinary life for Russians. Ukraine's constant strikes against Wildberries' logistics and distribution centers may be a setback for the war effort, but the real objective is almost certainly to spread war fatigue and disillusionment among Russian civilians. As journalist Alexei Kovalev explained in a recent analysis for Foreign Policy, Ukraine's, quote, Wildberries theory of Russian defeat means that, quoting again, Putin has been unable to protect his key clientele, the populations of Moscow and St. Petersburg, which he has tried to insulate from the war. Wind the clock forward to wintertime, and Ukraine's next move seems rather obvious. During the summer, Kiev has been able to hurt the Russian consumer at the pump and prevent packages from arriving at their doorstep. But in the winter months, Ukraine can finally deliver some real payback. In essence, Ukraine would be trying to force a battle of sheer pain tolerance, trying to push Russians to their limits while Ukrainians are able to grit their teeth and endure. Ukraine has a good reason to believe that it could win a pain tolerance battle, especially when the cold is involved. At this point, most people currently living in Ukraine have been through several harsh winters, and they know what's coming. Odds are this winter won't even be as bad as last year, not because there's any expectation that Ukraine will be warm, but because last year was unusually harsh, even by Ukrainian standards. Russians, meanwhile, could be headed into their first winter of rolling blackouts at a time when fuel is already scarce and expensive. And if Russians are already churning out vlogs about how miserable they are because of this war, then Ukraine has reason to believe that pessimism and fear could soon evolve into nationwide dread and resentment against Moscow's war effort. Like we've already said, when the Russian public does occasionally fight back against its government, it tends to fight hard and produce results. So can a Ukrainian winter campaign push Russians past their limit? That's hard to know for sure, but if they do, then Vladimir Putin could be in serious trouble. Now, we're going to switch gears and play devil's advocate in just a moment, but before we do, we'd like to pause this episode and tell you about our premium Back to Ukraine. the pessimist's argument. Now, we'd be remiss to leave our dear Warfront's viewers, that's you, with the impression that Ukraine is barreling toward an outright victory this winter. For one thing, we don't actually know whether Ukraine would authorize a campaign against Russian energy infrastructure like the ones Ukraine has experienced, and it's possible that international pressure, diverging war priorities, or the preferences of Ukrainian leadership could cause Kyiv to go down a different path. But the more important problem with all of this is that we haven't yet talked about the other side of the coming winter, because although Ukraine has reason to believe that a strong winter campaign could be the straw that broke the Siberian tiger's back, Russia can also make the case that it could turn this winter to its advantage. The core problem for Kyiv comes down to air defenses, where at this point in the war, Ukraine has fewer air defenses interceptors available than ever. Kyiv is especially short on the expensive, primarily American-made PAC-3 interceptor, which powers the Patriot missile defense system. While Ukraine has plenty of other options to bring down slow-flying kamikaze drones and some of Russia's less advanced cruise missiles, it relies on the Patriot to stop Russia's ballistic missiles and its fastest cruise missiles. Those projectiles launch and arrive so quickly and travel at such high speeds that no other air defense system in Ukraine's arsenal can deal with them at scale. Those Russian weapons include missiles like the Iskander-M, the Kinzhal, and the Zircon. Right now, however, Ukraine's Patriot interceptor stockpiles appear to be facing critical shortages. Nor is that a unique problem for Ukraine. Because of the United States' ongoing war with Iran and its proxies in the Middle East, Washington is burning through Patriot interceptors much faster than they could be replenished. According to some estimates, the US has barely a third of its pre-war Patriot stockpiles left. Close American allies aren't even receiving interceptor orders as expected, let alone a country like Ukraine, which the current US administration considers a relatively unimportant ally of convenience. The results for Ukraine have been devastating. Now that Russia's aware of the critical shortfalls, Moscow's forces have been hammering Ukrainian population centers, where the number of casualties per strike is rising sharply. On the day this episode was written, the 5th of August 2026, Ukrainian officials reported an overnight wave of 115 Russian drones and 24 ballistic missiles, with Ukraine unable to shoot down even a single one of them. 21 people were killed across the country in that single wave, with dozens more injured. Nor does Ukraine have the ability to close the gap anytime soon, and certainly not by itself. While the US is working to expand Patriot interceptor production capacity, its new assembly lines won't reach full capacity for months or even years. When they do, the US is likely to replenish its own stockpiles first and then top up the stockpiles of key allies before Ukraine is even a part of the conversation. Despite an announcement that Ukraine would be allowed to start its own Patriot production line, those plants have since started to come apart, and even if Ukraine does get permission, it'll take just as long to open a new facility there as in the United States. Ukraine is working hard on a substitute, the Freya, with the help of its European allies, but even on Kyiv's ambitious timeline, the first prototype won't be operational until mid-2027.
Damn,
Those shortages mean that Ukraine will be at Russia's mercy across the coming winter. Already, Russia's shifting tactics suggest that the nation's military leaders understand the opportunity in front of them and realize that they can devastate targets that would usually have been protected. Ukraine's energy minister, Denis Shmyhal, has been working to warn the world of what's coming. To quote him, "Russia's goal now is to destroy our water supplies. Last winter they targeted electricity and heating, but you could still survive if you had gas and water during electricity shutdowns. It's difficult to survive for more than 3 days without water." Russia was already planning to hammer Ukraine especially hard this winter, even before the developments of the last few months. One analysis published in March by the Center for European Policy Analysis explained that Russia had calibrated its planned summer offensive to force Ukraine to choose between protecting its energy system and industrial base and defending its soldiers on the front lines. Luckily for Ukraine, separate advances in mid-range strike capability meant that Russia's spring offensive fell flat on its face. But now, it seems that Moscow is preparing for a renewed push across the late summer and autumn. In Ukraine's eastern fortress belt, it's only a matter of time before the embattled city of Kostiantynivka falls, probably at incredibly high cost to Russia, but it seems destined to fall nonetheless. Russia is also working to capture relative highland areas, which would allow it to fire down on the key city of Slovyansk, the value of which we explained in a dedicated episode back in June if you'd like to check that out. And it may attempt to escalate pressure against the northern city of Sumy. So, Ukraine does have the option to try and engage Russia this winter in a knockdown, drag-out contest of sheer pain tolerance. Ukraine can attack Russian energy infrastructure, Russia can attack Ukrainian energy infrastructure, and both nations can find out who breaks first. But if Ukraine wants to play that game, that it simply can't expect to suffer the same level of consequences as in 2024 or 2025. Russia's impact on Ukraine this year will be worse, especially if Russia starts going after water infrastructure regularly. So Ukraine has to do its moral calculus too. Perhaps if it's a milder winter, Ukrainians will be willing to suffer through, but Ukrainians may also have to endure blackouts that go on longer, happen more frequently, and coincide with water shortages that pose a much more imminent threat. And that's to say nothing of the growing civilian casualties from Russian strikes now that missiles are getting through without much trouble. Ukraine can make the bet that ultimately the Russian public will break first, but that's far from a guarantee. We'll draw upon the words of Denis Shmyhal, Ukraine's energy minister, once again. Putin hopes, in winter, our society will break from exhaustion and pressure leadership to sign the surrender. It's like the 12th round, and each boxer hopes their rival will fall first.
Hey, I'm gonna leave that off on that one. Let's see. I'm gonna choose another video, and then we're just gonna have to call it a day. I'm at like almost 2 hours here. Yeah, well, Andrew Tate. Let's do this one. Because it's been a while since I talked about AI on this video. The $7 trillion AI gamble is falling apart, and big tech is trapped by the infographic show.
Was supposed to kick off a white-collar purge, but the reality is different. In Fortune 500 boardrooms across the country, thousands of AI agents are being shut down, not because they didn't work, but because they're a legal time bomb. The narrative is that tech giants are spending everything to win an AI arms race, but the reality is much messier. They're stripping the liability out of their systems while pouring billions into the build-out. And when the dust settles, someone still has to pay for it. The U.S. interstate highway system is 48,000 miles long. It took 35 years to build and cost $630 billion in today's money. It is, by any measure, one of the most consequential infrastructure investments in human history. Meanwhile, big tech is spending $725 billion in 2026 on AI infrastructure alone. That number...
You know what? I actually cannot wait for AI tech to fall. Like, not because it's actually... It's a good technology, but not for what they're doing it for. But like, I'm just trying to build like a beast of a computer, and they're taking
has
up
more than
all the
doubled
chips.
in just 2 years and is projected to keep climbing into the trillions by 2030. In fact, Goldman Sachs now estimates that the total AI infrastructure bill between now and 2031 will exceed $7.61 trillion. For that kind of money, you'd expect a revolution. What these companies are getting right now is cents on the dollar. The entire global AI services market in 2025 generated around $25 billion against hundreds of billions of infrastructure spending. When a Chinese startup called DeepSeek revealed in January 2025 that it had built a competitive AI model using NVIDIA's lower-end chips for under $6 million, it seemed almost impossible, but it still shook the market, wiping out around $590 billion from NVIDIA's market cap in a single day. It was the largest single-day loss in U.S. stock market history. DeepSeek, far from breaking AI, merely raised the question every investor had asked himself: what exactly are we paying for? The companies spending this money don't just have it lying around, they are borrowing it. Well, Alphabet quadrupled its long-term debt in 2025 to $46.5 billion. The 5 biggest tech companies issued $108 billion in new bonds last year alone. Bank of America now estimates
Like, bro, they're printing money out here. God damn.
that AI capex now consumes 95% of operating cash flows after dividends. Amazon is projecting a 95% decline in free cash flow thanks to its AI build-out costs. They are, in essence, mortgaging their present against a future that hasn't shown up yet. The gamble is genuinely alarming. If it were startups chasing hype, that would be one thing. These are the most sophisticated capital allocators on the earth. When they spend like this, they either know something the rest of us don't, or they're caught up in something they can't stop without admitting they were wrong. Either way, something has broken. To understand what, you have to go back to the moment a grieving man in Vancouver asked an airline chatbot a simple question and changed corporate legal history forever. On the day his grandmother died, Jake Moffat opened his laptop and went to Air Canada's website to book a flight from Vancouver to Toronto. He had one question: did the airline offer bereavement fares, and could he apply for one after the fact? He asked the chatbot and it said yes. It told him to submit his request within 90 days of purchase and the discount would be retroactively applied. So Moffat booked the ticket, flew to Toronto, came home, and then filed the request like he'd been told. And Air Canada denied it. Their actual policy, as it turns out, required bereavement fare requests to be made before travel. The AI chatbot had simply made up a policy that didn't exist, stated it with complete confidence, and sent a grieving man to buy a full-price ticket based on a lie. So Moffat sued. And what happened next is the reason every corporate lawyer in America now has an opinion about chatbots. Air Canada's legal defense was interesting. They argued it could not be held liable for information provided by its chatbot because the chatbot was, quote, a separate legal entity responsible for its own actions. They had deployed a piece of software to represent their company, and when that software caused harm, their position was essentially, don't look at us. Tribunal.
Huh? That's the dumbest shit I have ever heard.
Member Christopher Rivers was not impressed. While a chatbot has an interactive component, he wrote, it is still just a part of Air Canada's website. It should be obvious to Air Canada that it is responsible for all the information on its website. It makes no difference whether the information comes from a static page or a chatbot. Air Canada was ordered to pay 812 Canadian dollars, and in perspective, that amount is trivial. The precedent was not. That ruling landed in February 2024. What followed was a corporate panic that never made headlines, but could be seen in the risk sections of SEC filings. In 2020, 4% of public companies mentioned AI as a material risk in their annual filings. By 2024, that number was 43%. Among the Fortune 500 specifically, 56% now lists AI as a formal risk factor. Among media and entertainment companies, it's 92%.
Ooh.
The SEC itself has been sending enforcement letters demanding more specific disclosures, backed by $8.2 billion in financial remedies in the year 2024 alone. Climate change took decades to achieve similar disclosure penetration across corporate America. AI did it in 3 years. What the Air Canada ruling established is that whatever your AI says to a customer, you said it. You can't outsource the liability to the software you employ. You can't just point at the machine and then look innocent. You are the machine. For a technology that can't guarantee it won't make things up, that ruling created an absolute certainty. Deploy AI at scale, and eventually liability follows. The bigger question is, will there be anyone left to cover the bill? In July 2024, research and advisory firm Gartner predicted that at least 30% of enterprise Gen AI projects would be abandoned after proof of concept by the end of 2025. By April 2026, they had to revise their original estimate. It turns out that it was actually more like 40% of enterprise AI projects launched in the previous 2 years that would be scrapped before they ever shipped. Separately, Gartner now predicts that over 40% of agentic AI projects, the next generation of AI tools companies are currently betting on, will be canceled by the end of 2027. The graveyard keeps growing. S&P Global Market Intelligence put some finer numbers on it.
Honestly, I'm pretty sure anyone could have called this. I called it. I know the infographic show called it. I'm forgetting some names. Big A called it.
Average organization scrapped 46% of AI proof of concepts before reaching production. Of the projects initiated, only 48% make it to production, with an average of 8 months between prototype and launch. That is 8 months of engineering hours, infrastructure costs, and executive attention on a coin flip chance of shipping anything at the end of it. McKinsey, another consulting firm, surveyed organizations globally in late 2025, and they found that 88% use AI in at least one business function. If that sounds like a success story, it's not. Only 39% reported any measurable impact on earnings. At most, 61% reported no meaningful financial impact on their business whatsoever. Roughly 6 in 10 companies have plugged AI into their operations and can't point to a measurable return it's made them. The reasons are familiar enough that Gartner has named them outright: poor data quality, weak risk controls, rising costs, and unclear business value. Each project costs between $5 and $20 million to build and deploy. Multiply that across thousands of Fortune 500 initiatives, and you're looking at tens of billions of dollars buried in the corporate graveyard. It gets even worse for big tech. A 2024 Deloitte survey found that 47% of enterprise AI users admitted to making at least one major business decision based on the content AI had simply invented. In other words, nearly half had already trusted a hallucination with real-world consequences. Granted, things have evolved a lot since 2024. The efficiency revolution is still an aspirational possibility as agentic AI improves. But you wouldn't be human if you hadn't wondered why the flaws you've seen firsthand seem absent from the market's calculations. There's a particular breed of corporate fear that shows up where you would least expect it: insurance contracts. Basically, if the people whose entire business model depends on their ability to correctly price risk deem something uninsurable, that is usually a huge red flag. In January 2026, the Insurance Services Office introduced new exclusions targeting generative AI. Essentially, if generative AI causes the damage, don't assume you're covered. New policy language began excluding claims tied to AI-generated text, images, audio, video, and code. That is every large language model ever built. The chatbots, the AI co-pilots, the autonomous agents, all of them circled with black ink and excluded from the policies that cover 82% of U.S. businesses. In 2024 and 25, insurers had been narrowing AI coverage in existing policies by tightening up language and adding exclusions. W.R. Berkeley introduced an absolute AI exclusion across directors and officers, errors and omissions, and fiduciary liability lines. AIG saw that and they said, well, we'll have more of the same. Great American Insurance followed. Chubb, Travelers, Berkshire Hathaway received
man. Everyone's
state
getting
regulatory approval for their own exclusions. State regulators have been approving more than 80% of those requests. The industry has seen this movie before. A decade ago, cyber insurance went through an identical cycle. There was invisible coverage until claims mounted, and then came the exclusions. Eventually, standalone products emerged at premiums most companies couldn't stomach. The AI liability market is speed-running the same cycle. Insurance companies are not moral actors. They do not exclude things because they find them distasteful. They exclude them because the numbers don't work. They tried to price in AI liability throughout 2024 and 2025, and 42% of insurers reported tracking no AI risk metrics at all. When you can't measure risk, you can't price it. And when you can't price it, you exclude it. The legal system said, whatever your AI does, you did it. The insurance industry said, and we won't be covering that, which left every company still running public-facing AI deployment holding the entire liability themselves, all on hardware that was simultaneously losing most of its value. In the summer of 2023, if you wanted to rent a single NVIDIA H100 GPU, a foundational chip in the inception of the AI arms race, you were paying between $7 and $10 an hour. To buy one outright on the secondary market, you were looking at $40,000 to $50,000 per car. Startups were putting H100s on their balance sheets like assets, and venture capitalists were asking portfolio companies how many they had on their books. NVIDIA's market cap soon passed the $1 trillion threshold, and it kept rising. In February 2026, it hit $5 trillion. The H100 was, for a brief, dizzying moment, the most strategically valuable piece of hardware on the earth. Today, you can rent one for $2 an hour. In June 2025, AWS cut H100 pricing by 45% overnight. The secondary market collapsed right behind it. GPUs that had sold for as much as 50 grand during the AI boom were suddenly worth less than half that. Entire H100 server systems that once cost more than $350,000 were now trading for a fraction of their peak value. Over 300 new GPU cloud providers entered the market in 2025 alone, all of them selling capacity that nobody was buying at the rate anyone projected. Thousands of companies weighing up where to sell the cards at a loss. It is the difference between making payroll and not making payroll. This signals a deeper problem about the infrastructure thesis that justified the entire build-out. The argument was always that compute was scarce, that scarcity created value, and whoever controlled the most compute would win out in the AI race. DeepSeek fractured that argument by building a model competitive with GPT-4 on a budget that Meta spends on catering. The telecom industry learned the lesson the hard way in the late 1990s when companies invested more than $500 billion in fiber optic cables based on projections of a 1,000% annual internet traffic growth. When monetization stalled, the
When do you get that number?
markets closed. Miles of
1,000%?
fiber sat dark for years, owned by companies that no longer existed. The asset had been real, but the business model built on top of it had not. No amount of Google fiber buildouts by the 2010s could fix that. The H100 fire sale is the fiber glut of 2025. The hardware is real, the revenue was supposed to follow. It hasn't. Today, the trillion-dollar companies watching their hardware depreciate have made a calculated decision on what to do with their cash instead. There's a move corporations make when they believe their own stock is a better investment than their future. They take their cash and they use it to buy back their own shares. This reduces the number of shares in circulation, boosting earnings per share, which then lifts the stock price. Investors love it. Boards love it. Everyone wins. Yet it is a signal that the smartest people in the room looked at every opportunity available and they chose not to bet on the future. Instead, they bet on the thing already making money today. Over the last 5 years, the companies loudest about the AI revolution have been doing exactly this at a scale that is difficult to fully absorb. Alphabet has spent about $280 billion buying back its own stock. Meta and Microsoft have spent tens of billions. Apple, which barely talked about AI until recently, has spent $704 billion buying back its own stock over the past decade. That's more than the entire market value of 488 companies in the S&P 500. And then the data center bills started piling up. All of the money disappeared. In September 2024, Microsoft promised shareholders a $60 billion buyback program. It signaled that the company was flush, confident, and committed to returning cash to the people who owned it. A year later, $57.3 billion of that promise still sits completely untouched. Microsoft didn't change its mind, but every spare dollar was getting redirected into paying for servers, data centers, and AI infrastructure instead. In other words, they wrote the check, they just couldn't afford to cash it. This is what the AI arms race really looks like from the inside. The story being sold is one of a confident sprint into the future. The reality is a scramble to fund it. Companies are being squeezed between investor expectations and the soaring cost of AI infrastructure. For Microsoft,
I mean, it's gonna break soon. I have a feeling. Okay, maybe, just maybe, I shouldn't be going off about my feelings, but hey, I'm just saying that it doesn't look too good.
That's led to a $60 billion commitment sitting on the books like an IOU that nobody can collect. Alphabet's free cash flow is projected to plummet almost 90% in 2026, from $73.7 billion down to $8.2 billion. And in 2025, Alphabet, Amazon, Oracle, Meta, and Microsoft issued $121 billion in new debt via bonds to keep the lights on. That is 4 times what the entire tech industry borrowed on average in any year of the previous decade. The AI revolution is being funded on credit, not profits. And the org charts that were supposed to prove this was working have started to change. At some point in 2023, someone in a corporate communications department typed the words generative AI into a press release and felt genuinely excited about their job. The phrase had some weight. It had mystery. It implied that the machine was creating something, thinking almost, generating. The word did a lot of heavy lifting for a lot of companies that had no idea what they were actually going to do with the technology. By 2026, the impetus for generative AI has turned into agentic workflows. People are talking about autonomous process orchestration and intelligent automation. It's the exact same technology, but the promises for what it can deliver are dramatically smaller. Today, the gap between the language...
I mean, honestly, what I'm gonna say is they should not go bigger models, but more specialized models. Like, hear me out on this one. Okay, if anyone takes this idea, just know it came from me. They, instead of like going for a model that can do everything, have a model that can do like humans. Okay, humans don't do everything, and one human specializes. They should have a specialized model to do one specific task very well and nothing else.
Of 2023 and the language of 2026 tells you almost everything you need to know about what happened in between. The conversation has shifted from possibility to proof, from what could this do to what did it actually deliver. The companies that survived the graveyard of AI project rollouts did so by making their AI projects smaller, narrower, and harder to sue over. Not by funneling all their cash into chatbots that could answer any question or AI that writes company strategy well. What this means is a lot of routing software that sends customer service tickets to the right department and AI that scans contracts for non-standard clauses, things that are dull, specific, and measurable. Things that are wrong in ways that humans can still catch before they get expensive. And the job titles reflect that. In 2025, 26% of organizations had a Chief AI Officer, or CAIO. By 2026, that number jumped to 76%, tripling in a single year, according to an IBM study of 2,000 CEOs across 33 countries. But read the fine print on what those CAIOs are actually being hired to do, and it is obvious the role has fundamentally changed. It used to be AI evangelists promoting the technology. Now it's executives responsible for things like risk management, regulatory compliance, and governance. The EU AI Act kicks in fully in August 2026, requiring companies to identify exactly who is accountable when their AI causes harm. The CAIO is increasingly the person whose name goes on that form. Probably not the job description anyone imagined when they coined the title, but here we are. Meanwhile, the outcome of the earnings calls has quietly shifted too. AI-powered is out. Outcome-focused workflows is in, which is, if you read it slowly enough, a very expensive way of saying that the AI does a specific task and you can measure whether it worked or not.
Okay, that's kind of what I said kind of 2 times, but that's basically what I said.
The dream that produced the $725 billion.
Okay, but I'm gonna say this. I can't really go on too much longer. I am getting a little bit burned out. We're on 2 hours and 17 minutes, and you guys are just gonna have to take air. Okay, pause. But if you like this stream, let me know. And I love you all. I will hopefully have a video out this week. Don't quote me on it. It's only Tuesday, but hopefully this week.